our foliar set up. I mixed 2 gallons of compost tea and 2 gallons of water. This is the most concentrated foliar feed we've done yet, so I'm curious to see how it'll go. I just have a manual 4-gallon pump sprayer. I like to start at the bottom, work my way up, and make sure to get all the underside of the leaves. This is actually the first foliar feed this tree will have gotten.
Can you talk to what the foliar feed does for the plant versus drenching?
Yeah, sure. So drenching gives the bulk of the benefit down in your soil in the root zone. It adds a lot of beneficial microbes that'll help break down organic material for your plant. When we're doing the foliar feed, it acts more like an antibacterial coating on your skin. It'll help protect it from pests, pathogens, and the plant will be able to absorb some of the nutrition from the compost tea through its plant tissue as well. But mostly it's for the protective qualities of the tea on the plant. So you can see we haven't done it yet, and this one's getting eaten up a little bit, so this will just help protect the plant. And this is an Asian pear tree. They're delicious. Way better than an apple or a pear. And we transplanted these into the soil less than a year ago. I think it was at the end of last summer or early fall. We haven't really done anything yet. We haven't done any pruning or training. We wanted to make sure the trees were well rooted. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. Maybe you do want to do it right away, but my thought process, let the plant get established before doing any trimming or bending.
I'm getting compost watered.
And as Melinda's learning, stay upwind from the compost tea. You don't want that on your skin. You want it on your plant skin. I think that's pretty good. And that's all I do. And I just go around and hit any plant that comes in my path. You can put it on anything. Avoid anything you're going to harvest, like fruiting or flowering vegetables or fruits. Just because it is a bacterial treatment, we don't want that on our fruits and vegetables, something we're about to eat. So I would say wait 2 weeks, or avoid giving compost tea before you harvest for 2 weeks. So it'll help foster an environment that prevents pests and pathogens, not necessarily bugs, but hopefully through the health of the plant, we can get the sugar content of the plant high enough to where the sucking bugs won't recognize it. I read or watched a video, I'm not sure, but guy was saying if you get your Brix level, that's how the sugar content's measured, above 12%, the normal bugs that feed on it won't recognize it as their food. So we're going to try to get our plants as healthy as possible, and that's going to be our defense against bugs.
So when they're healthy, the sugar content goes up?
Right, yeah. When the healthier the plant, the more nutrients it's able to draw up and convert into sugars. So the plant is drawing up calcium and phosphorus and all these elements and minerals, and it converts it into fruit. And the higher the quality, the higher the sugar content. So by increasing the plant's ability to draw up nutrition, as well as fight off pests and pathogens, that when the plant's stressed, they're not able to convert those elements into sugars the same way. So we want to give our plants the best environment possible, get the sugar content up as high as possible, and that'll hopefully eliminate most of our bug issues, the eating, sucking bugs, which makes your fruit ugly. this is really our first summer doing this on the fruit trees, so I'm curious to find out. I anticipate doing a foliar feed probably every 2 weeks on our fruit trees. Once a month is really all you need, but since we're a worm farm, we're going to go a little overboard on the compost teas this year.
So I just put these tomatoes in the ground the day before yesterday, I think. Actually, don't look that bad considering.
Yeah, something was mentioned on them a little bit. Got little holes, but they're taking to the transplant well. And giving your compost tea right when you transplant is ideal. It'll help set up that microbiology environment that we want. Get those.
So you can see, you can see the grass here, how us transplanting, we dig a hole and put the plant in it. We don't till the garden. Can you talk about that, Kyle? Why I didn't do that?
So we have gone the no-till route for a couple of reasons. The first is it just makes the most sense to me to layer up, keep adding material that will break down over time into plant available nutrition. Whereas with tilling, you're destroying that top layer of bacteria and fungi and small microorganisms that work to break down what's already in your soil, and you have to add fertilizer in every year to accommodate this loss of beneficial microorganisms that provide the nutrition for your plants. So by avoiding tilling, we're able to keep building every year on that biology that's in the soil, so it can become more efficient at breaking down what's already there, and we're adding a lot of organic material as well every year. And the more we develop the fungi in our soil, the less water we have to use, because it's able to draw in water from such great distances that this immediate area can be dry, but that shady area over there that stays wet all the time, these little plants can draw its water from a shady spot. If a plant's lacking a specific element or specific nutrient that it wants, the fungi allows it to draw from a great distance and pull it apart, or pull it from there. It's like a really neat transport system for plants. So by fostering that, we're less susceptible to drought. We're watering less for the simple fact that our ground cover prevents evaporation and keeps the moisture in as well.
Maybe we should talk about that for a second, because this garden, we got rain today, but that was the first time in like weeks.
Yeah, we haven't had any significant rain for
It's like
3 weeks now. And when you have a traditional garden where it's row cropping, where the soil's exposed, the water, especially out of that top few inches of soil, where really a lot of the good stuff's happening in our no-till garden, dries out to the point to the biology dies. And when the biology dies in that top layer of soil, your plant's only available source of hydration and nutrition is what its roots are touching right in that immediate area. Your plants have lost that communication network, that transport system for drawing specific elements, specific nutrients, and water when it's stressed. So now, if you miss your watering, you miss your feeding by small amounts, it can have real detrimental effects on your plants. And plants, they just don't bounce back right away. When you stress them out, it takes time for them to recover. It takes time for them to pick up where they left off. So when you're stressing your plants, you're stalling your plants. When you're stalling your plants, your sugar production, what we were just talking about, is down, and now they're more susceptible to pests. They're more susceptible to pathogens. when your plants are wilted, their cell walls are, I think, weaker and, much more susceptible to pests and pathogens. So by preventing that wilting and that weakening of the plant's natural defenses, we're setting up that ideal environment for our plants to just produce the best they can produce. And that kind of circles back to this compost tea. We're getting a huge amount of diverse microbial activity now all over our garden. With a soil drench, you are more limited to how much you produce, but with a foliar feed, I can make sure I get every single plant that needs to get hit, and then whatever's left over I can go get, if I got a special plant in mind, like those Asian pear trees, or if there's something that needs maybe a little extra attention, I can still soak the soil around the plant with the sprayer. But it's after I've gotten everything I need to get. With a 5-gallon bucket of tea, and you try to pour that in a controlled fashion. Our plants, some of them get too much and some don't get any. So I'm a big fan of the sprayer and the foliar feeding for the teas.
But you can't give too much, correct?
No, as far as I know, you can't give too much. I mean, you can give a foliar feed at full strength, but the point is to really spread the wealth, and it's maybe a little wasteful to give it at full strength because you don't need to. That bacteria that you're spreading is going to keep reproducing, keep repopulating. So a little bit does go a long way, but the full strength is not going to hurt. You do have a lot of that worm casting material with some beneficial nitrogen and microelements. We add a lot of like dry amendments and microelements to our compost for the worms to break down. So we'll get some extra calcium from the bone meal we add, a little bit of extra phosphorus from some of the alfalfa meal we add, and that makes its way down to the tea. So by giving it at full strength, the plant's able to absorb some of those elements and nutrition that it might be lacking through the plant tissue. So it's so multifaceted, and I'm still learning about it. So I think I know more than the average person about it, but there still feels like there's so much to learn that I don't know. It's hard to sum it all up. It's hard to put it into words, the full benefit of the worms.
Definitely. So our garden here, maybe we should talk about for a second. So this no-till garden we started last year. So like the soil, we're still really building it up with the microorganisms and bacteria. But even with us just starting making this garden a garden really recently, how many times did we have to water it with this past drought? I mean, I've watered it like a couple times.
Really, the only things I felt I've had to water are the transplants.
Yeah.
The seedlings, and we just transplanted 2 apple trees this week. So that's really the only thing I felt I've had to water. There's so many benefits to it. I'm really excited to see what we build out of it the more we add. Running low. Getting the underside of the leaves is more important than the top. So if you're running low like I am, make sure you get the underside first, and whatever you have left over, then you can spray the whole top. But the plant stomata are underneath. This will help open them up, kind of clean them out, make sure the plants are able to transpire better. So transpiration is the act of basically the water content of the soil moving up through the plant and evaporating off the top of the plant. So the plant needs the stomata to be open to be able to do this process. And the more the plant transpires, the more water it brings up from the soil, the more nutrients it brings up with that water. into the plant tissue. So we want to encourage as much transpiration as possible.